protect our country. It would be a grave mistake to think for a second that this is a normal occurrence. It is not normal. We have to call it out as not normal. If any other president had done this, regardless of party, there would be equal or greater outrage. And the greater problem that we have is that our congressman, the person that represents us, said nothing. Mr. Collins came out and said that he was fine with it. He had no problems. And then 24 or 48 hours later, he came out and said it was just a simple slip of the tongue. It was a mistake. Let's give him a mulligan. The problem is you cannot give the President of the United States mulligans every single week. Let's take it and believe for a second that it was just a mistake and that we have to ignore the entire context of the situation. He's a professional. He is there to stand for our people. What message does it send to those who protect us, the CIA, the FBI, and all the law enforcement, right down to the law enforcement in Batavia, if the leader of our country is saying such things? The bigger question I have for the people of Batavia and the people of Western New York is, what do you think it would take for our congressman to call out the president? What would he have to do for him to say this is wrong? You saw the bipartisan attacks that came, the bipartisan criticism that came from all elements of our society that said this is a serious problem, a serious lapse of judgment. But Congressman Collins had nothing to say. He defended the president. He came out with a position about the Mueller investigation. He had nothing to say except for to divert attention away. I have to ask the people of Western New York, what did he do to represent the people that are here? What did he say that was relevant to the people of Batavia? I'm standing here with veterans. Earlier this morning, I stand with members of other law enforcement groups. I stand with a 30-year veteran of the FBI, and they are concerned. And I'm also standing here with a lot of young people who believe in America and want to believe that America is special and different, that America stands for something. It stands for values. It stands for our country. It stands for what we've always stood for democracy and freedom. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions you may have. I'd be happy to answer those questions. But I am going to continue to stand for the people of Western New York and stand for the American values that I believe in and for this country.
Go ahead. So I saw an article in the Buffalo News the other day about Chris Collins has a lot more money than you do, and you basically summed it up as, you know, it's like David and fighting against David and Goliath, and you know, how do you feel your chances are? I mean, most people that are in this boat do not succeed.
You are absolutely right. But the good news is I am going to advance across this district. There's photographic evidence, the amount of people we're drawing, and we still live in a country where you can't buy votes. One person equals one vote. And my money's coming from picnics and potlucks. We live in an era of huge money in politics. And it's true that it's hard to fight that amount of money. But David still won with a slingshot. And that slingshot is the vote of the average people, the middle class people of Western New York. Look where his money comes from and look where my money comes from. Who do you think he represents? You know, there's a saying, if someone controls you financially, they control you every single other way. Look where his money comes from. He has said publicly that he represents his donors. His donors are not my donors. My donors are people who are coming out to our events. We go to events, there's 200 people there, we'll walk away with $200. And I'm supposed to be embarrassed of that? I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the small dollar donations we're getting. That's who we are, and that's what we're going to be to the end.
I've kind of heard from some of the other congressmen, I think it was Will Hurd of Texas, they asked him about it, and he said he was disappointed, but in his work as a CIA agent, you know, you would have to just keep doing your job. You kind of talked about that what has happened would be discouraging down to the level of like a Batavia police officer.
Right.
Are you feeling that? I mean, I don't get the sense that there's a lot of people that are in law enforcement that, regardless of what they feel politically, they're still just trying to do their jobs. How does that manifest?
They are amazing. I got this from a police officer this morning. He gave this to me. He said, well, I want you to wear this today. He was wearing one. He wanted to give me one. So there is concern out there. But the good thing about our law enforcement officers and the people that protect and defend us, they will fight and do what's necessary. But they're fighting for something that's bigger than themselves. They're fighting for our country and what we represent. We represent freedom. It is wrong to compare the United States of America and put it on the same level with a dictator who shoots down commercial airlines, who puts his people in prison for opposing him in any single way, and that has attacked our democracy, and that our FBI and our law enforcement officials have told us definitively that they tried and they attempted to interfere into our election and our democracy, and they're trying again, and they'll do it again. Instead of worrying about these picayune issues that we're fighting about, this is a witch hunt. Let's forget about that for a second, and let's focus on what we can do to defend our democracy. And that's what I'm about today. I am disappointed that our congressman didn't come out boldly. I don't care if Donald Trump was a Democrat, or I don't care who he is. When someone gets up on a stage and compares America to an authoritarian state, you have to stand up and say that is wrong. And as a kid who grew up in this country and believing in the future of our country, I am saying that is wrong.
Do you think if Chris Collins took a stand that the president would listen?
Absolutely. The president listened yesterday. This is a guy who has this opinion that you double down. You always say, well, don't admit your mistake. And I know that strategy. It comes from the world of business. Because when you admit your mistake in negotiations, you sometimes get hammered. So this is a man who does not want to admit his mistakes. It is drilled into him. But what did he do yesterday? He had a press conference. It was an awkward and clumsy press conference, but he finally admitted his mistake. And he did that because of bipartisan efforts came out and said this is a mistake. What he did was wrong. But Congressman Collins was not part of that. A big part of being a congressman is that you must be a check on the executive branch. Even if you love Donald Trump, we do not live in an authoritarian state like Putin has. We live in a country where people like me, people who go to Congress, and people who fight for the people of Western New York need to be a check on the executive branch so we do not have an expansion of unwarranted power. And that's what I will do.